Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing high concept horror video number 6, Horror Matchmaker. So I knew when it was going to be February, I wanted to do a Valentine themed high concept horror video. So what we're going to do is take various horror characters throughout all different types of horror movies, and we are going to pair them together. So apart from this first couple who are actually from the same franchise, all the other ones are going to be people from different movies and franchises altogether that I've paired together. And I do have to say a spoiler warning for some of the different movies that are the ones that these horror characters belong to, just so we can talk about some plot points and, talk about their personalities a little bit. And then I also wanted to say some of these characters may have had significant others in their movies, or they may have passed away in some of their movies as well. But none of that matters. We're just putting them together from, the movies that we have seen with them. So the first ones that I want to talk about, and the ones that are actually from the same franchise, are Kirby and Mindy from the Scream franchise. So Kirby is definitely the fan favorite from Scream 4. She is a huge horror movie fan, and she is just very funny and fun-loving. Just a joy to watch in this film. And then we have Mindy, who is in Screams 5 and 6, and she is another very big horror fan character in this franchise. And she is even the niece of horror aficionado Randy Meeks, which I think just gives even more to her character. And I think that the two of them would be well suited for each other, purely based off of the fact that they are both big horror fans. They would obviously have so much to talk about together as far as horror goes, and they would have plenty of movies to watch together as well. But they would also just have that shared experience of also going up against Ghostface. And I think that they would be a formidable threat together, for sure. But I also am putting them together because of the scene that they share in Scream 6. I know that Mindy had just lost her girlfriend at that point, mere hours before that. But I just felt like the vibes were vibing between the two of them. And, I'm interested to see if they will get more time together as the Scream franchise goes on. I know that Kirby is not supposed to be a part of Scream 7, I don't believe, but Mindy is, and hopefully her character will survive in Scream 7. But this is actually something that could be doable, and I would really love to see that, to be honest. I think that they would be very well suited together. It would be an interesting idea. And it just felt like after that scene, that could have been something that might have happened before all of the shifting that they had to do after the firing of Melissa Barrera. But moving on, we have another couple, Tommy from the Friday the 13th franchise and Jamie from the Halloween franchise. So Tommy went toe-to-toe with Jason Voorhees as just a preteen, and I think that that just shows how badass of a character he really was, even at such a young age. And, he wasn't a huge physical threat against someone as huge as Jason, but he was able to use his extensive knowledge of horror effects makeup, and he made himself actually look like young Jason. That way it would at least give Jason pause and start making him kind of get confused. That way it would put them in a little bit of a better situation. And then when he finally had the upper hand, Tommy even killed off Jason. And then he spends the next two movies kind of dealing with the fallout of that and effectively bringing him back from the dead, but we won't talk about that part. So then we have Jamie, who was fleeing from Michael Myers when she was just single-digit age. And, she's definitely not a physical threat to Michael at all. There's no point in any of the films that she's a part of where she's really trying to attack Michael or anything like that. But again, just like Tommy, she uses her smarts to be able to kind of tap into the human part of Michael and the part that is her uncle. And I think that the two of them would be a good match together due to the fact that they don't have exactly shared trauma, but they have very similar traumas that they have lived through. I think that it's something that really only they could understand when they're going through something. If they are having a bad day, one of them, the other one can really just be a shoulder to cry on and just really understand them more than anybody else ever could that hadn't been in a situation like that before. The next couple that I want to talk about would be Sidney Prescott from the Scream franchise and Will Graham from Red Dragon, as well as the Hannibal TV series. So Sidney Prescott is, in my opinion, the best final girl of all time. She is very strong and resilient, but she is still also very sweet and just all around a good character. And she is no stranger to dealing with serial killers. She has been putting up with them for what will be 6 movies when Scream 7 comes out. And then we have Will, who is a retired FBI agent in Red Dragon and an active one in the Hannibal series. And he has his own kind of psychological gift where he can empathize more with serial killers, and he is used to trying to take them down in his line of work, and he also is someone who ends up consulting with a serial killer in Hannibal Lecter for his different cases. I think that the two of them would be a very interesting couple that I would like to see, just because of the fact that they do have all of that extensive knowledge of serial killers together, and they could easily, take them down, and they're very well trained as well. Sydney has no problem just taking them out and ending it. She's not going to have there be any room for them to come back at any point. And I think that additionally, this would just be a good match because when we have seen Sydney in more adult relationships throughout the Scream franchise, they have been with people that were in law enforcement in some type of way. So I think that that would appeal to her very well, with Will being an FBI agent. So the next couple that I want to talk about would be Jesse from A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and Charlie from Fright Night. So Jesse is the main character in this Nightmare on Elm Street film. He moves into Nancy Thompson's old house with his family, and then he starts to have nightmares about Freddy Krueger. And Freddy definitely takes a liking to him, so much so that he ends up possessing him in order to try to kill in the real world instead of just the dream world. And I think that Jesse is a conflicted character, but he definitely cares very much about all of his friends and loved ones, and he does whatever he can to try to keep them out of harm's way, even if that just means removing himself from the situation. And then we have Charlie, who has dealt with a different type of supernatural evil when he has a new neighbor move in next door who is very seductive, but who is also a vampire. And I think that he, just like Jesse, is, very concerned about all of the people that he cares about and wants to make sure that they are in a better, safer situation away from his neighbor. However, I think that both Jesse and Charlie, they are just very disinterested in their romantic partners, Lisa and Amy, and I think that there's just something missing there, and it's something that maybe the other one could bring to the situation. And I also just think that, both of them having gone up against supernatural entities would make it so they could take down really any threat that goes against them as well. So the last couple that I want to talk about is Laurie Strode from the Halloween franchise and Ash Williams from the Evil Dead franchise. So Laurie Strode is one of the most beloved final girls of all time. I think that she can hold her own, especially in those first 2 films, but then from H2O onward, she is just an absolute badass. She is going to take the fight right to Michael, and she's not going to stop until it's over with. And then we have Ash, who really his journey just started as a vacation gone very wrong. And he goes to a cabin in the woods with his sister, as well as his friend, his girlfriend, and then the friend's girlfriend. And they are, just having their fun time, but then they listen to a recording and that brings deadites upon them, and they start getting picked off one by one, and Ash even gets possessed at one point as well. And it goes so far that he ends up having to chop off his own hand so he doesn't have the infection spread throughout the rest of his body. And I think that he is just an absolute badass, even from that first movie on as well. And I think you get to see more of that as the movies go on, as well as in the TV series. So I think that the two of them would make such a good match. I think that both of them are absolute badasses. They are well trained with different weapons, and they're also both just hilarious characters. So I think that they would definitely bring something funny out if they were together. And honestly, the two of them remind me of the couple in Tremors. And I think that they are just a really funny couple who are also very experienced with weapons as well. But I want to know your thoughts on this video down in the comments. Did you agree with some of my pairings that I chose, or would you have put some of them with other people? Or are there people that I didn't put on this list at all? Who do you think that they would make a good match with? I just think it's a fun idea for a video and definitely could have some good talking points. So definitely comment as much as you want down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and consider subscribing if you haven't yet for more horror content. I do post 2 new videos each week. You can follow me on Instagram for updates on my channel as well as additional horror content. You can also follow me on Letterboxd to see what I have been watching lately and my brief thoughts on any of those films. If you want either of those, they are linked in my channel description for easy access for you guys. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting my channel so far. It doesn't go unnoticed. My name is Devin, this is Carpenter Hill. Thanks for watching.